Are you ready to live a fabulous life? It's time to wake up, overcome your fears, and embrace uncertainty. Access your power and claim your dreams. It's time for Tuck Talk with Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, and her guest belles with balls, women, and mystery men who own their power. Join us for inspiring conversation and bold self-expression for living life full out and on your terms. Now, here's your host, the Rebelicious Tuck Self.
Hello, you all, and welcome to Tuck Talk, inspiring, informative, entertaining, and juicy conversations for your personal empowerment. Enthused, ballsy, and of course, rebelicious. I am Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, your host for the show and your Southern voice for bold self-expression. And I want to boldly express to you all today that I actually feel like the luckiest chick on the planet. I am delighted to have a voice, my voice, on the Variety Channel of the Voice America Network that allows me to do what it is that I love to do, and that is to share with you women who I consider to be belles with outrageous balls, and men who have captured my attention, who have inspired me, challenged my thinking, and gotten me to make those juicy shifts that I've been desiring to make in my life but been putting off. You know, folks, these people are doing it in the world. They're trusting their heart, their souls. They're owning their power, their boldest voices and work in a way that I think is quantum leaping all of us. I mean, for me, it's like Katie bar the friggin' door. I just say, how cool is that? How would you like to feel the power, the passion, and the large sense of play and fulfillment that comes with doing life on your terms? I mean, like doing your work, doing even your finances, your relationships, in a way that juices you, that juices your heart and your soul. So I'm ready, and I'm inviting you to be ready with me, and I'm saying if you're not living your fabulous life, if you're not doing it, if you're not claiming your voice, that now is the time to make that juicy shift with me, and Tuck Talk is the place, because Tuck Talk is for you. I want to know what's in the way of you living your one and only fabulous life. I want to know what juices you. So I'm inviting you to engage with me and my guests and let us know what your questions are, your challenges, and also, you know, what's working for you, what's blowing your skirt up. And as always, if you know an enthused, ballsy, and rebelicious topic or guest that rips the ruffles right off your petticoats or men maybe blows your socks off, you can email me at tuck@therebelbelle.com. Now, I have a question for you all, and my question is, have you been listening to what I've been saying? Have I been heard? Can you feel and have you felt my heart and my soul, and I say my rebelicious energy oozing out of every cell of my being? Or have you been multitasking, waiting for me just like to get on with it, listening to the chatter in your own head that's probably saying, my God, I wish Tut would put a clamp on it and get on with introducing her guests? Are you listening? And what is it that you're listening for? Because I am, once again, excited, as if that comes as any great surprise, to share with you an individual that I believe and know is a masterful listener, a masterful speaker, a masterful bells with balls, a woman that I believe is the best-kept secret in the personal growth, business development, and network marketing industries today, the one and only Dr. Carol Mccall. Welcome, Dr. Carol.
Wow, Duck. That was so great. I was certainly listening.
It's good, isn't it? Feels good.
Yes, it does.
I want to give our listeners a little bit of information about you, so let me give you a shout-out before we get into the meat and potatoes of listening.
Okay.
Folks, Dr. Carol is one of the recognized early pioneers in the coaching industry, along with Thomas Leonard, founder of Coachville, and Sandy Vilas. Now, for those of you who are coaches today and maybe even in a thriving coaching business, I say an enormous amount of gratitude goes to Dr. Carol Mccall as being one of those early pioneers. She's an entrepreneur, an educator, a therapist, a social psychologist, an author, trainer, lecturer with over 40-plus years' experience in communication and in personal development. She's the founder of the Institute for Global Listening and Communication, and she's the author of the book, Listen, There is a World Waiting to Be Heard. She's the creator of the Empowerment of Listening tape series, soon to be available on CD and MP3, and the creator of the Listening Course workshop, the Possibility of Woman workshop, my first introduction, and the Life Development Coach and Communication Coach Training Program, folks, which I've had the privilege of participating in. Now, in the industry and in the media, Dr. Carol is known for her unique listening skills, and we love to say her laser coaching ability that will quickly move you, I promise, from turning your desires into commitment, action, results, and profitability. But here is what this Rebel Bell has to say about Dr. Carol Mccall. She can move your mountains. She can listen and hold a space for your brilliance, for your passion, for your power, for your empowerment, if you so choose to show up for that. And I was looking at my old books, Dr. Carol. I have known you since 2001,
Yes.
which just blows my mind. And I have to say that your work has and continues to profoundly shape the way that I listen to myself, the way I listen to my children, my partner, my friends, and my clients. I hope that everybody can feel and hear me, and as I say to you that you absolutely fuel my passion today and always for coaching, teaching, and mentoring others, and that it juices my heart and soul to be able to share you with the listeners today. And I want to start with a question that's just probably very basic, and it's based on my own experience. 15 years in the accounting industry that I attended, God, I can't tell you how many supervisory courses and management courses around active and passive listening. And the philosophy it was great. The philosophy was good. But I don't know that I ever got the experience of listening. It was like I was doing it instead of being it. So speak, if you will, to your style of listening, how you teach it in your body of work. And I'm going to say, take the stage. You deserve it. Go.
Thank you. That's a great tall order, Tuck. It's wonderful to listen to you. As I was listening to you, I was thinking, there isn't really much for me to say because Tuck is demonstrating it all. You're focused and you are present and you are saying what's there in the moment. So that is a segue into how do I teach listening? Well, it's a way of really teaching people how to become focused. Now, everybody knows how to focus. They really do. And they say, I don't know how to stop off. I don't know how to turn off the noise in my head. I don't know how to stop all of the chatter. I don't know how to stop the little monkeys on my back. Whatever people call it, whatever that noise is, they say they don't know how, which is not true. And I really support people to get to fundamentally, you do know how to focus. And if you've ever paid attention to when you're focused on one thing, first of all, when you come out of that focus, you go, wow, where'd the time go? Or, really? Time was that short, or time was that long, or was I that engaged or concentrated? The answer is yes. And that is what I mean. Everybody knows how to focus. Well, that's what listening is. Listening is being focused. You cannot, and this is fabulous, because this is a theory, this is a thing that comes up in physics, and it is a theory in physics. No two things can occupy the same space at the same time. and going back to the example that I just used, when you are totally engaged and concentrating on one thing, I promise you, you are not multitasking. You are totally and completely engaged in that one thing. Well, that's what listening is. And so as I work with people, I don't train them how to listen. They already know how to do that. What there is to practice staying focused. And yes, I get people say, yeah, but what about all those other things, all those other trailers, those other thoughts that come in? Go back to what you were doing. It's going to take practice. It's absolutely going to take practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a 4-step part, and it really is a simple 4-step part. First of all, you identify, 1, oops, I'm not listening. 2, well, okay, so now I have to get back to focus, but what do I focus on? Well, you focus on another listening, and what's the listening you focus on? What is the person in front of you saying? Or what is the task in front of you that you are to accomplish? And then third, you actually take a physical action, as in, okay, you either say, right now, I'm only going to do this. Right now, I'm only going to focus on this. Or right now, I'm only listening to you. Or right now, that whole statement about right now, that has the dynamic of bringing you back focus right now. Right now. Anytime you say right now, what happens? You can't say right now and be thinking about the future. You can't say right now and be thinking about the past. I mean, I know people do. However, they're not really using that trigger, saying right now, to bring them focused. So say it. Right now, this is all I'm going to do. This is all I'm going to say. This is all I'm going to listen to. Right now. That in itself brings you focus. Now you can listen.
That is powerful. It's so powerful that I'm going to say right now, it's time to take a short break.
Okay.
Folks, you're listening to Dr. Carol Mccall, my guest for Tuck Talk. I am Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle. So, we'll be right back after the break.
Are you ready to unleash your rebellious spirit and begin living boldly, full out, and on your terms? Meet Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, coach, speaker, and author of the 7 Morphalicious Steps to Outrageous Freedom and Bold Self-Expression. Are you ready to overcome your fears, claim your power and purpose, and make your mark on the world? Call Tuck now at 803-736-9240 or on the web at therebelbelle.com. Remember, REBELBELLE.com. Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, a Southern voice for bold self-expression. It's Tuck Talk with your host, Tuck Self. Make your voice heard by email to tuck@therebelbelle.com. Now, back to Tuck Talk.
Welcome back to Tuck Talk. So you think you're a good listener. You're going to find out today by listening to my guest, the masterful Dr. Carol Mccall. Now, Dr. Carol, I know we were talking about the focused listening before the break. Because of my lifetime of experience with you, all of that, love the story of how you actually came to be doing this work. I'm going to ask you to share that with our listeners.
Oh, yes. Every time I'm asked that question, it rekindles for me truly my passion about how come I do this work. And when I first started doing this work, I was being trained as a therapist, and I was a trainee, and I had the opportunity to work with a group of other psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and we all went into San Quentin, the prison, San Quentin. At the time, they were housing the criminally insane there during that time. And so I was part of a small group that went in to learn how to question and to be trained by a very severe group of criminals, and that severe group was the criminally insane. And a number of them were serial killers. And the experience that I had, when they were asked the question, how could you commit such heinous crimes, consistently, I think, to the inmate, they said, in one version or another, nobody listened until it was time for them to die. Then, at the very end of the end of their life, as I was taking their life, all of a sudden, I had their total complete listening. It was non-distracted. I mean, they were right there with me. And that's the first time that they had really experienced being listened to. And so for many of them, they repeated that experience of being heard. And the thought that I had was, oh my gosh, if I can prevent people from doing these kinds of harmful things to people by listening, well, let me get busy here. Let me get to work and support people to listen. Because as a child, I have the gift of being able to listen.
There you are.
Yeah, and I thought everybody could listen the way that I did. I really did. And as I grew up, discovered, no, that was not true, and that was a particular gift, ability of mine. And then to be impacted by these prisoners who said, no, people don't listen to me until I'm ready to kill them, until I'm ready to die. And I thought, you know what? If I have anything to do with it, if I can stop even one or two of these kinds of things to happen by supporting people to listen or to teach people to listen, then I'm on. I'm in. Count me in. Because that was just so impactful and so scary and so frightening. So
well,
that's really
I've heard the story. I've heard you say that so many times, and even listening to you today, I was getting chills up and down my spine at the power of the thought.
Yes.
Behind that listening, that moment. I mean,
yes.
It's just so. I don't know that people get the healing powers of listening.
Yes. There was just recently, like within the last 48 hours, my daughter and I were out shopping, just doing some basic, simple shopping, like in a Lucky's food store. And she needed to purchase a couple of money orders. They have these, customer service counters, and she needed to purchase a couple of money orders. And she went over to this woman who was behind the customer service, and she said, I need one money order for $75 and one money order for $25. And the woman said, oh, okay, money order for $175 and a money order for $125. and my daughter was like just stunned, and she said, no, wait a minute. No, I said one, and she repeated it a couple of times softly, and she repeated it slowly. And the woman said, yeah, I got it, $125 and $175. And the woman started to get angry. And my daughter said, wait a minute. Now, she said, I know that what you heard was right for you. Let me say it again. Let me say it again, because this is what I'm saying.
That's powerful, yes.
Yes. The thing that she did was let the woman know she had been heard. She said, let me say that what you heard was right for you. That wasn't what I said. So forgive me if I miscommunicated.
That's brilliant.
Wasn't it?
That's powerful.
And you know what? The woman calmed down. Mm-hmm. She stopped, and she listened, and she said, one money order.
I heard you. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because that was the difference between hearing, because people do confuse the two. Mm-hmm. They hear. They're not listening, though.
Yeah. And don't you love it when somebody says to you, I hear you?
Yes, because that's true. I know they do.
Yeah.
And the question is, yes, and were you listening? Because that takes the communication to another whole level. The beauty of listening and people experiencing being heard is truly, it's a healing process. And the other one, Tuck, it's also a sacred process. Because how often do you get to spend truly seconds, and there's sacred seconds in a person's life through communication? Not often, because we're busy multitasking, we're busy hearing and busy doing all the other stuff, rather than spending just a few seconds with individuals and have the experience of being heard. I promise you, if more of us did that, which is my goal, is to have 200 million masterful listeners by the year 2020. That's my vision. I want everybody to hear it, which means it only takes a few seconds, not even minutes, to be still and listen to the person who's speaking. And when they experience being heard, they'll do all the rest. They will be productive. They will heal. They will be creative. They will be enthusiastic. They will be love. They will be all the things that very often I know people say, gosh, I wish you were a little more of this, a little more of that. Well, here's the ticket. Stop and listen, and they will be more of that. Isn't that exciting?
It is. it is. Now, I know when you were working on your doctorate, correct?
Yes.
You actually were working on this particular topic.
Yes.
And you speak to the power of that healing of listening. It's what you did your doctorate on. Speak a little bit about that for me.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I did was to come up with my thesis in terms of when people are heard, they create endorphins. And when they are not, they create toxicity. So when people say, "You make me sick," they're not kidding.
Oh, wow. Do that again.
Yeah. When people are not heard, they create toxicity. They create poison in their systems. And so if they say to you, "You make me sick," that's true. Because the experience of not being heard leaves people incomplete. And out of that incompletion, physiologically, what they do is store up that angst. They store up a brain-activated chemical into their body, and it becomes toxic. When they experience being heard, they create endorphins. Now, I am busy writing grants to make sure that I can get this truly tested in several labs through some universities, etc., so that I can get this out there, I can get it printed, I can get it tested, and all of that. But that's basically what my thesis was based on, is that when people are heard, they create endorphins, and when they're not, they create toxins.
You know, in this day and time, I would think that you could find some monies to support your process of doing that, because it's just basic science.
Yes, it is.
It's basic science. But you know, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking of myself back in a couple of your courses, being heard and being listened to, and how it just created such a flow of tears. God, and just the ability to release so much of what was stored up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because as a Southern woman, you know, I say I was taught to be seen and not heard.
Yes, yes. Well, women generally are taught, little girls are taught to be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, absolutely, there are cultural layers laid on top of that. And, you know, as a little girl, if you're taught be seen and not to be heard and only to be seen, or to be polite, or not to, whatever all of those isms are, by the time, unfortunately, by the time we're 5 years old, and that's whether we're male or female, by the time we're 5 years old, we have become accustomed to not being heard. Have you ever heard a child go through the grocery store or department store, or even down the street, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy"? I mean, absolutely. It's because by the time the child is 5, that's an automatic reactive listening. I'm not going to be heard, so I just have to keep repeating myself. It's also part of foundational how come a lot of the advertising, how many times do they repeat their ads? They repeat them at least 7 times during a certain second repetition.
Wow.
You know why? Because people aren't listening.
You reckon that's how come I love to talk? I love to talk so much. I was just trying desperately to be heard.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Trying to be heard. Now, when you're with someone who hears you, you have a lot less to say.
That's true.
You know, when I have had the privilege of being with the Dalai Lama, and while he speaks Tibetan and I don't, the point is that I'm heard. And when I'm with Eckhart Tolle, he listens. And the point is, I'm heard. I don't have much to say. I really can't even find anything to say.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
That's really interesting, because that is so true for me.
Yes.
When I am with powerful, powerful teachers such as yourself, the feedback that I get sometimes, not from you, but from the people around me, is, "Why are you so quiet?"
Yes.
I'm listening.
Yes. Yes. So that's the beauty of really listening, and to have people trained in how to listen. That in itself is a healant, and we can heal the world, through listening. And it is a sacred journey that we can take with every human being on this planet. And it's not intrusive. It's not invasive at all. I can sit and listen to you and never have to butt in. And that is one of the biggest things that creates toxins in people's lives, is how much people butt in to their conversation. It's called the, me too, I do that. They jump on the me too bandwagon. Well, right now, I don't need you to jump on the bandwagon. I need you to listen to the bandwagon I'm on.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to butt right in. It's time to take another short break.
Okay, great.
Folks, you are listening to Tuck Talk on the Voice America Variety Channel with my guest, Dr. Carol Mccall. I am Tuck Stealth, the Rebel Belle, and your host for the show. Stay tuned to listen.
Are you ready to unleash your rebellious spirit and begin living boldly, full out, and on your terms? Meet Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, coach, speaker, and author of the 7 Morpholicious Steps to Outrageous Freedom and Bold Self-Expression. Are you ready to overcome your fears, claim your power and purpose, and make your mark on the world? Call Tuck now at 803-736-9240 or on the web at therebelbelle.com. Remember, REBELBELLE.com. Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, a Southern voice for bold self-expression. It's Tuck Talk with your host, Tuck Self. Make your voice heard by email to tuck@therebelbelle.com. Now, back to Tuck Talk.
Welcome back to Tuck Talk, you all. I am your host, the Rebelicious Tuck Self, and my guest is Dr. Carol Mccall, founder of the Institute for Global Listening and Communication and author of Listen, There's a World Waiting to Be Heard. And we've just been having, I believe, a delightful conversation about the power of listening. And what I really hope to communicate to you all today is the ease at which Dr. Carol teaches her listening tools. I mean, I was talking to you about it earlier, Dr. Carol, that to me, active, passive listening can be so boring. You know, I've even tried to get people to come to the listening course with me before, and it was like, oh, yeah, wow, whatever, listening. However, when I start talking about the power of healing around listening or the simplicity and the fun of your 9 tools of listening, people just get it. So, talk a little bit about, let's talk about the 9 tools of listening.
I'll go through them very quickly and then go back and explain briefly what they mean.
Yeah, because I have a favorite.
Okay, all right. Well, the 9 tools are 1, brevity, 2, acknowledgment, 3, empowered listening, 4, being heard, 5, boldness, 6, intuition, 7, 99.1 MSU, 8, completion, and 9, coach action. Now let me go back. Brevity. What is brevity? Well, brevity is being concise and to the point.
It's not listening to me.
You know, it's like people talk too much. Just make your point, be concise, and be clear. And when that happens, wow, people hang around and listen. It really is the key to how come people turn you off.
Mm-hmm.
People talk too much. The next one is acknowledgment. Acknowledgment is a way of letting people know that you heard, not only did you hear what they said, what you did with what they said. Have you ever had the experience of saying something to someone and it goes into this ether?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like, hello, anybody at home? What I teach people to do in terms of acknowledgment is give a structured feedback. Thank you, Tuck. I appreciate what you said about brevity. And what that means to me is I'm now going to place a check on myself when I talk too much. So you now know what I did with what you said. So that's acknowledgement. The third one is empowered listening. And this is where that law in physics comes in. No two things can occupy the same space at the same time. If I'm listening to people like they're an idiot, or this is stupid, or I already know this, or get to the bottom line, or yeah, I've heard this before, that's the listening that's in the space. However, I can shift that to, wow, listen to this teacher, listen to this wise person, listen to this information. When I place that empowered listening, that listening of capability, or that listening of respect, or that listening of leadership, when I put that in the space, then that's the filter that speaker is speaking into.
Now that's one of the most powerful tools there are, because I imagine all of us have that chatter in our head at some point in time that says, just like I said at the beginning of the call, God, won't you put a clamp on it and get on with the program?
Yes. If I change that listening to, wow, I'm really listening to a leader here. Wow, I'm listening with a tremendous amount of respect. I respect everything she. That's totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. So that's empowered listening, because I've chosen to listen a certain way. Being heard. Now, this is the one that very few people check to make sure. they don't check that they were clear in their communication. And what has happened is a lot of our language has devolved to, you know, you know, well, you know what I mean? You know. I mean, it's such short, it's not even shorthand. It's not even short words. It's just this grunt, basically, that people have devolved to. Being heard is making sure that I was clear. So I check back with people. How did you hear me say? What did you hear me just say? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that the person is stupid, and it doesn't mean that they weren't listening. It means, did I deliver my message?
Clear communication.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So that's being heard and checking to make sure that what you said, it landed on the listener's ear the way you intended it to. So that's being heard. The fifth one, boldness.
Love it.
Yeah. Boldness is about being authentic in the moment. And it requires, here's the good news. You cannot be thinking about the past. You cannot be thinking about the future and be bold. Mm. If you're thinking about the past or you're thinking about the future, if you're thinking about the past, I call that archaeology, then you go digging up stuff, and what comes out of your mouth is what's rude. Mm. It's not bold. Because you have to be focused. You have to be present in the moment to say what there is to say, which is bold. For example, when my daughter was bold with the woman at the customer service.
Yes.
When she said, the way you're hearing it, you were right. She was focused, and that was bold for her to say that. Mm-hmm. And she was authentic, because I know my daughter well enough to know that she had to take a deep breath and to focus herself, because after a while she's going to get pretty ticked off, and that's not what she wanted to have happen.
Trusting the boldness, too, yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So she immediately went to boldness and became authentic. She said what was so for her in the moment, and then she was able to communicate, and the woman got it. It was a wonderful interaction. So that's being bold. It's being authentic in the moment. Intuition, following your hunch. I love to speak from my intuition, and people who do they ring true. I don't care what they say or what they're saying. When they're speaking from their intuition, they ring true. Yeah. What their words are saying. And you've heard that expression, from the mouth of babes? Mm-hmm. Well, that's where that came from. Where do children speak from?
Intuition.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. From the mouth of babes. That's why it rings true. So when you speak from your intuition, you're clear, you're concise, and you're right on target. And good news is you're also very wise. Now, this is one of my favorites. MSU.
Yes.
Making stuff up.
Yes.
If people had any idea that we spend a good 99% of our time making stuff up, and the other 1% perhaps listening to what the person said or hearing what the other person said and making up the other 99% about what it meant, it's a wonder that we still have the life that we have.
Yes. I think I remember in a class one time giving you my favorite example of MSU.
Yes.
And that's when Larry says, Tuck, honey, can I rub your feet? I'm making all kind of stuff up. Oh, God, if I let him rub my feet, then what? Instead of just enjoying the friggin' foot rub.
Exactly. I give a very simple example of using the word bird, and then if in a room of 100 people, 150 people, I will do a room check. What do you think I mean by the word bird? And literally, I get almost 100 different interpretations of the word bird, because they've already made up what I mean.
Yes.
Instead of waiting to see, what did I mean by bird? And it depends. Sometimes I mean the jazz player. Sometimes I mean the basketball player. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I mean that little bird, the ones that have the wings.
Yes.
It depends. It depends on what I'm thinking of in that time. And yet people they're off and running, making stuff up, which is how come we also have toxins in our body. Yeah. It's not only not being heard by other people that causes us to not feel well, all the stuff that we make up in our heads and we don't check out, that also creates toxins in our body. So we have to catch ourselves in terms of making stuff up. That's number 7. Number 8 is completion. We need to complete our communications. We need to be complete in the moment. Like I've said as much as I can say about this subject, I'm going to move on. I'll pick it up the next time. However, I've gone as far as I can go for now.
Yes, Dr. Carol, you taught my daughter this tool quite well. When we were in the midst of our heated discussion, she would say, "Mom, I am complete for now."
Right. That's a great one.
What could I say?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And the last one, coach action, which is stop the drama. Most people are a drama waiting to happen. And when you can catch yourself in the drama, there is a way out. And I even teach people how to diagram their own drama. Now, we don't have just one. Heaven forbid, we would get bored immediately. We have a multitude of dramas that we run according to the occasion. So there is a way to stop the drama, and it's an action you wouldn't normally take. It's something you wouldn't normally say. If you're a person who would almost gag and choke on the word forgive me, there's two things I don't say. I don't say, I'm sorry, and I don't say, I apologize.
Yes, I remember having to put quarters in a jar.
Yes. I don't say those two things unless I'm truly sorrowful because someone died or they had a loss. That's for which I am sorrowful. However, I'm not sorry because that's like an excuse to get me off the hook of a behavior that I'm going to turn on and repeat anyway.
Yes.
And the other one is I apologize. For what? Forgive me. I made a mistake. Forgive me. That's really what I'm asking. Forgive me. Now, that may be a real difficult thing for someone to say. I promise you that'll stop the drama. It's doing something you wouldn't normally do. Forgive me.
Yeah.
So those are the 9 tools. What's your favorite?
MSU.
Yes.
It just, it's the one that's easy that you can banter, or I can banter back and forth with people that have been in this work and people who haven't been in this work. Just to say, what's up with you? What's with the MSU? Or to catch myself,
yes,
in the MSU. It's
yes.
just easy and it's fun because to me, if tools aren't practical and tools aren't fun, then I say, why the heck would I embrace them and take them on to change my life?
Exactly. And they are a lot of fun. And when you start to live, and I really do coach people to live a tool per month.
Yes, you do.
Live a tool per month and just live that tool alone. I promise that alone will transform your life. A tool per month.
A tool a month.
Yes.
Wow. Well, here's what I want us to give some attention to. It's breaking time again.
Okay.
Folks, we'll be right back. We are listening and talking and listening to Dr. Carol Mccall about empowering your listening. I'm Tuck Self, your rebellious host for Tuck Talk. We'll be right back after the break.
Are you ready to unleash your rebellious spirit and begin living boldly, full out, and on your terms? Meet Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, coach, speaker, and author of the 7 Morpholicious Steps to Outrageous Freedom and Bold Self-Expression. Are you ready to overcome your fears, claim your power and purpose, and make your mark on the world? Call Tuck now at 803-736-9240 or on the web at therebelbelle.com. Remember, REBELBELLE.com. Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, a Southern voice for bold self-expression. It's Tuck Talk with your host, Tuck Self. Call in and chat with us, 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Make your voice heard by email to tuck@therebelbelle.com. Now, back to Tuck Talk.
Welcome back, you all. We are Tuck Talking to Dr. Carol Mccall, facilitator of the So You Think You Are a Good Listener webinar, which Dr. Carol's going to tell us about in a minute. But first, I'm going to ask her to speak a little bit about the filters through which we listen to others from or through the life decision.
Oh, yeah. And the beauty is this is the famous lid. It's the lid that we all place on ourselves, the life decision. Some people are calling it a belief system. And I heard a very powerful program the other day about beliefs. And the speakers that were talking about belief, originally, belief came from the German word, like as in Liebe, to love. That's where it first started out, like Ich liebe dich. And so Liebe, belief, was part of beloved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. However, it changed. It changed as it morphed, and it became more rigid. It it became a thought that got locked in, and then people disciplined themselves according to that locked-in thought. And so a belief system actually places a lid on how people interact or how people conduct their lives. I'm not negative to beliefs. I think my thought about it is that once you are clear about your beliefs, you can change them.
Yes, you can.
You can change them. And this is the good news. The thing is that you got to discover, though, what you believe.
Yes.
And if you believe it with such rigidity, then it will not serve you. Your belief needs to nourish you and to encourage you. So life decisions are like beliefs. They're energy lids that we place on ourselves. And early in the conversation, we were talking about how come women are a certain way. How come as little girls we are taught to do a certain thing, a belief. There are 5 different life decisions, and according to the work that I do, and they're standard for both men and women. While they may get they get translated in terms of action slightly differently, they're basically the same. And one's not enough, too much, and I'm not doing them in order.
That would be you.
Yeah, one's not enough, too much. One is not good enough, better than.
That would be me.
One is not worthy, deserving, entitled. One is one is worth less, worth more. And then the 5th one is not important, most important, omnipotent.
Yes.
So those are the 5 basic life decisions. And depending on, there's no rhyme or reason how come a child chooses them. And I say this to parents all the time. You didn't have anything to do with this one.
That's a relief.
Yes. Most parents say, oh, thank goodness, now what can I do about it? What you can do about it is listen, and when the child starts to speak a certain way, using certain language, using certain sentences, speaking about him or herself a certain way, then you can fortify against that by giving them an empowered listening. Like, I listen to you as a leader. I listen to you as capable. I listen to you with respect, and start to interact with our children that way. So the life decision for women is in many cases not good enough, better than, or not enough, too much.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, not good enough, better than, or not enough, too much. And women generally have one of those 2 life decisions. Some of them have worthless. Like, there's a whole country that has the life decision of women is worthless, and that's China.
Yeah. You know what I love about the way you teach this work is that we each have a primary one that we filter through. However, I love it when you say we just drive through the neighborhoods of all the others.
We do. There will be, we go through cycles, and we'll, like the engine is still the same in the car, but the engine hasn't changed. However, we have taken our little car and parked it in a new neighborhood, and so we'll sit in the neighborhood called not important, most important, omnipotent, and we might sit there for 15 years.
Yeah. I will just say this, this was one of the most profound things that I got from your work, because still today I catch myself when the chatter goes off in my head, I can tie it back to the not good enough.
Yeah.
Not good enough, better than. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to give you a moment, because I always came to your workshops, and I would fly places to come to your workshops. You are now making your work available via a webinar.
That's right.
Let's let our listeners know when those are.
Well, I'm going to direct them to my website, my blog site, which is http://drmccall.wordpress.com. I'll say it again, http:// these are all lowercase, drmccall.wordpress.com. And all of the dates are on there. We are having one tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're having one tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so, depending on what coast you're in, you can figure out the time zone in between. It's $99, and I've changed it from "So You Think You're a Good Listener" to Do you think you're a good listener?
After today, absolutely. And I tell that is a steal, $99 for a 90-minute webinar with the masterful listener. Dr. Carol Mccall is an absolute gift and an absolute steal.
Well, here's what I'm excited about, Tuck, is you actually get to identify, those lids, the kind of automatic listening that you have.
Yeah.
You actually get to identify them, and then you get the replacement for them. It's one thing to identify it. Now that you're identified, so what?
So you're telling me you get a solution.
You get a solution.
That's fabulous.
Not only do you get one solution, you get 36 solutions.
That's great. I am just so grateful that I have had this time with you today and have been able to share you with our listeners. And I am part of your mission, please hear me, to create 200 million masterful listeners by the year 2020.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a great thing, is it not?
Absolutely. It is a great thing, and I so appreciate and I'm honored by your partnership. It's thrilling to be with you. And I'm glad to know we've been together since 2001.
Wow. Can you believe that? That
great.
Is wow.
Fabulous.
That is so wow.
Fabulous.
It's just great. So people, please join the world and be one of the 200 million masterful listeners.
Absolutely. Join me and become one.
Absolutely. Folks, till then, this is Tuck Self, the Rebel Belle, your Southern voice for bold self-expression. And I am giving you a Rebel Bell yell and inspiring you to be your boldest voice of self-expression in the world, enthused, ballsy, and, of course, rebelicious. Until next week, thanks for listening.
Thank you.